One bright, sunny weekend morning, Amane finally wakes up from his sleep. He decides to wait in the living room for Mahiru, and before long, she shows up looking just as nervous. They have recently started dating, but they still aren't completely comfortable with each other. Mahiru tries to lean on him, but he suddenly stops her, which causes her to tear up. Amane quickly tries to explain that he's just really tense because they're in a new relationship. Mahiru admits that she's nervous too, but her desire to be closer to him is stronger than her anxiety. She suggests that both of them should try to be more open with their feelings. Amane asks if he can move closer and scoots nearer to her side. However, Mahiru notices that they still aren't even touching. She asks if physical contact is something he's uncomfortable with. He apologizes for being so stiff, but admits that it mostly stems from his lack of experience in acting like a proper couple. He then asks Mahiru what couples are usually like. She begins describing how couples normally behave, but this only prompts Amane to point out that they had already been doing all of those things when they were still just friends. Mahiru suddenly realizes that they had been acting like a couple long before officially becoming one. She apologizes, admitting that it was mostly her fault. She had wanted to attract Amane's attention and in the process ended up acting like his girlfriend even before they started dating. Instead of trying to follow what other couples do, she suggests that they should simply focus on getting closer to each other in their own way. As she speaks, their hands naturally find each other. Amane apologizes for overthinking things, then suggests that from now on, he'll continue doing the usual things he always has, but with more love in his actions. Mahiru's heart swells at his earnest declaration. She wraps him in a warm hug and asks if it would be okay for them to start going to school together on Monday. On Monday morning, Mahiru is shocked to see Amane changing clothes right in front of her. She quickly scolds him, but Amane casually tells her that he doesn't mind her seeing him without a shirt since they need to get used to it if they plan to go swimming together during the summer. However, his thoughts suddenly begin drifting in a different direction, so he quickly tells Mahiru to start making breakfast. Later on, Mahiru admits that she feels a little uneasy about Amane showing up to school with his new hairstyle. She worries that it might attract a lot of girls' attention. Determined not to lose her place by his side, she decides that she'll simply smother him with affection so no one else will get the chance to make a move on him. The idea makes Amane uneasy because he doesn't want other people to see just how sweet Mahiru truly is. His comment makes Mahiru blush and she complains that her heart is going to explode from how sweet he's being. However, Amane points out that Mahiru is much worse since she's affectionate all the time. Mahiru quickly counters that his compliments are far more lethal because they come out of nowhere. She buries her head against his chest and decides that today, he's allowed to keep complimenting her. Later, as they walk hand in hand to class, students from their school begin to notice them. Amane already has a feeling that rumors will start spreading soon. Still, he reassures Mahiru that he has no intention of stopping their relationship just because of what others might say. Suddenly, their friend Chitose runs up to them, clearly delighted to see that things have finally worked out between Mahiru and Amane. Chitose happily declares that all of her mentoring for Mahiru is paid off, which surprises Amane, since he had no idea that Mahiru had been receiving advice from her. Chitose then takes a closer look at Amane and notices that there's a different aura about him. Amane apologizes to Chitose. However, she doesn't make a big deal out of it, since she already knows that Amane is the type of person who prefers to say things face to face rather than message any of them updates about what's going on. The three of them continue walking together, with Amane promising to treat Chitose to some crepes as thanks for helping them get together. Once they arrive at school, Amane's friends immediately congratulate him for finally getting together with Mahiru. They tease him relentlessly, pointing out that it took half a year for the two of them to officially start dating. Suddenly, a classmate named Ayaka approaches Amane. Upon realizing that it's really him, she and her group of friends begin complimenting him on his new look. Amane graciously accepts the compliments, and because of his friendly attitude, the girls feel comfortable enough to ask if he is dating Mahiru, since there are talks that people saw them holding hands. When Amane confirms the relationship, the girls swoon and eagerly start asking for more details, especially about how they met. Amane honestly explains that they first became friends and only recently decided to start dating. At that moment, Mahiru walks up to the group and confirms everything that Amane has just told them. She openly admits to the girls that she's very happy, especially because she had a very long crush on Amane. The two of them then begin playfully arguing over which one of them fell in love first. However, Mahiru soon starts complaining that it took him a long time to finally admit his feelings for her. As the two continue flirting, it becomes obvious that they are completely lost in their own world, barely noticing the people around them. They suddenly realize that the entire class is quietly watching their interactions. Itsuki wastes no time teasing Amane about their public display of affection, but Mahiru is actually pleased by how open they are with each other in public. A little later, people are still talking about Amane and Mahiru's new relationship, and Amane hopes that the attention surrounding them will die down soon. He is with Makoto and Kizuya, since they have gotten close since the sports festival. His friends approach him, noticing that he has been spending more time with other people lately, which relieves them. Despite everything, Makoto points out that most of the girls are actually relieved that Amane and Mihiru have openly confirmed their relationship. Because of that, the boys who had been pursuing Mihiru have finally given up and are now looking at other girls. Hearing this, Amane hopes that people will start treating Mihiru more normally from now on. Many students tend to look at her like she's an angel, and that kind of attention has always bothered her. Mihiru overhears her name being mentioned and walks over to them. The boys quickly invite her into the conversation since the discussion is about her in the first place. Mihiru calmly tells them that she doesn't mind the nickname as much anymore. To her, being known as Amane's girlfriend is more than enough. Amane immediately grows embarrassed, while his friends point teasingly in his direction. They remind him that he should tell Mihiru to tone down the flirting. During lunch, Chitose begins drooling over the lunch that Mihiru prepared for Amane. However, since Amane refuses to share his meal, Mihiru kindly offers to trade some of her food with Chitose instead. Amane starts eating right away, and Yuta quickly points out that he looks like he's genuinely enjoying the meal, which makes Mihiru beam with happiness, since she likes watching Amane enjoy her cooking. She happily mentions that she plans to learn all of Amane's favorite dishes soon. Amane insists that she can keep cooking whatever she personally likes, since everything she makes is already delicious and he's perfectly happy eating any of it. Itsuki then jokingly asks them to keep their flirting in public to a minimum. Despite the tease, he understands that their behavior is also sending a message that no one can come between them. Still, Itsuki gently reminds Amane to be a little more mindful of their surroundings whenever they start flirting. By the end of the day, Amane and Mihiru leave school together, with Amane feeling completely exhausted from everything that had happened. It turns out that many people who previously had crushes on Mihiru had approached him to confront him. However, the moment Mihiru made it clear just how much she loved Amane, they quickly gave up on grilling him. Mihiru feels proud of herself for proving her love to him, mentioning that she would have said more things if given the time of day. Before heading home, the two stop by a grocery store. Mihiru feels especially grateful that she can now go shopping openly with him, and the two of them casually discuss what they should have for dinner without worrying about what people think of them. Mihiru mentions that she would like to have fish for dinner since they had eaten a lot of meat over the past few days. Amane decides to request mackerel, and Mihiru immediately agrees, saying that it's the perfect choice since the fish is currently in season. She also mentions that she knows how to prepare a delicious sweet and sour sauce to go with it, and gently promises not to make it too sour for Amane's taste. Amane is amazed that she remembers that detail about him. As they continue their walk home, Amane begins to wonder if they might have moved too quickly in their relationship, considering that they had only known each other for half a year. To Mihiru, however, that period already feels too long, especially since Amane had realized her feelings much earlier but pretended not to notice them. Even so, she isn't angry with him. Instead, she simply feels grateful that they are finally together and can openly show how much they love each other. Amane tries to rein in her display of affection, warning her that it might awaken the wolf inside him sooner or later. Mihiru immediately understands the implication behind his words and shyly promises to keep herself in check. The next day, Amane can't help but notice that Mihiru seems to have become even more popular since they started dating. Itsuki explains that now that Mihiru appears more approachable, other girls are no longer too intimidated to talk to her. The fact that she is capable of dating someone as normal as Amane makes her seem less distant and far less unapproachable than before. Amane reflects on how Mihiru used to speak only with a small circle of friends, him included, before they officially became a couple. Now, everyone has begun to see just how sweet and kind Mihiru truly is, and the thought of having to share her warmth with others makes Amane feel a little uneasy. Itsuki quickly picks up on Amane's possessive feelings and teases him about it. However, he soon reassures Amane, saying that he's certain Amane gets to see sides of Mihiru that she never shows to the public. After school, Ayaka, who is assigned to class duty with Amane, casually mentions that he has changed and has become much easier to talk to ever since he started dating Mihiru. She admits that he always seemed somewhat unapproachable before. Still, she doesn't blame him for his aloof personality, since she understands that he was never a bad person and was just someone who preferred to keep his circle small. Amane openly admits that he made a conscious effort to be more friendly so he could spend more time with Mihiru, because he genuinely likes her. Ayaka responds by saying that she believes Mihiru must feel deeply loved, since Amane is willing to change for her. In her opinion, that kind of effort is one of the clearest forms of love. She also adds that she believes Mihiru loves him just as much. At that moment, Mihiru enters the room and apologizes for making Amane wait for her. Ayaka quickly confirms that they are finished with their class duties. As a small gesture of thanks for all his help, she hands Amane a protein bar before leaving the couple alone together. As Amane waves goodbye to Ayaka, he notices that Mihiru looks like she has something on her mind. Mihiru quietly shares that Amane seemed to be having fun talking with Ayaka earlier. Wanting to reassure her, Amane gently pulls Mihiru into a hug and explains that they were simply talking about how much he has changed recently. He tells her that Mihiru played a big role in helping him become friendlier, and he also points out that he has noticed Mihiru smiling more often these days as well. With a soft expression, she tells him that she smiles because of all the time Amane spends with her. One rainy day, Mihiru and Amane head out together to do some grocery shopping. Mihiru isn't too fond of the gloomy weather, but Amane casually mentions that he actually likes the rain. He recalls that they first met on a rainy day, and he feels that the rain was what originally brought them together. Before Mihiru can comment, Amane quickly adds that he also likes rainy days because stores tend to have discounted items. Mihiru giggles at his practical reasoning. Once they return home, Mihiru asks what Amane had been talking about earlier during their PE class. The moment she brings it up, Amane accidentally drops his phone onto his foot, remembering the conversation he had with the boys. They had been teasing him about how far his relationship with Mihiru had progressed. They'd also joked about Mihiru receiving romantic advice from Chitose. Trying to divert the conversation, Amane insists that it's nothing Mihiru needs to worry about. Although she looks slightly troubled, Mihiru gently tells him that he doesn't have to share everything with her if he doesn't want to. Amane smiles fondly at her response, once again reminded of why he loves Mihiru so much. He then admits that he is already aware that Mihiru has been getting love advice from Chitose. He reassures her that he doesn't mind as long as she doesn't share too much private information with Chitose. The next day, Mihiru tells Amane to go ahead and walk home without her. However, she reminds him not to walk home with another girl. She trusts him, but she admits that she doesn't like the idea of seeing him with other women. Amane is about to pat her on the head to comfort her, but after noticing several classmates watching them, he decides to simply reassure her that Mihiru is the only girl he will ever need. Mihiru is deeply touched by his sincere reassurance. In return, she decides that he deserves to know about her plans. With a nervous expression, she admits that she will be going shopping with Chitose to buy swimsuits. This revelation surprises Amane because as far as he remembers, Mihiru doesn't even know how to swim. That is exactly why she chose their current school, since it doesn't require students to take swimming lessons. Mihiru reminds him that he had previously mentioned wanting to go to the pool together as a couple. She then shyly asks what kind of swimsuit he would like to see her wear. Caught off guard, Amane quickly tells her not to choose anything too revealing. Mihiru decides that she will just ask Chitose for advice instead, prompting Amane to immediately send Chitose a message begging her to keep Mihiru's swimsuit choices modest. Later that evening, after finishing his shower, Amane steps out and notices that Mihiru is still inside his apartment. Curious, he asks why she is staying so late. When Mihiru turns around and sees him shirtless, she becomes flustered and reminds him that she had already told him to dress properly when she is around. As she continues to avoid looking at him, Amane reminds her that she needs to get used to seeing him without a shirt if they plan to go swimming. Still refusing to face him directly, Mihiru admits that she can't help feeling embarrassed because this more confident side of Amane makes him look handsome. She tries to explain that her heart is beating wildly at the moment. Overwhelmed by affection for her honesty, Amane gently hugs her from behind, wanting her to understand that he feels just as nervous as she does after hearing her confession. However, when he suddenly realizes how awkward his actions might seem, he begins to pull away. But Mihiru reaches out and stops him. She explains that seeing him like this makes her realize just how masculine he really is. Confused, Amane asks what she used to think of him before. Mihiru shyly admits that he always looked a bit skinny in the past. Amane apologizes for appearing weak, but Mihiru surprises him by suddenly placing her hands against his abdomen. She softly explains that he is actually much more muscular than she initially assumed. Sensing that the situation is starting to become dangerous, Amane quickly warns her. He gently holds her in place to stop her from touching him any further, even as she reassures him that she wouldn't mind if he touched her. Amane blushes deeply and warns her once again. This time, Mihiru finally understands the implication behind his words, so she quickly stops and suggests that they save that kind of closeness for another day. Amane agrees, admitting that he might lose control. He gently pats her on the head and reassures her that he would never do anything to hurt her. The two of them then move to sit on the couch together, where Mihiru confesses that she feels a little anxious about getting closer to him. At the same time, she shyly admits that she is also looking forward to sharing their first kiss. Mihiru understands that Amane is only being considerate toward her, and she doesn't want to pressure him into anything. As she gently explains her feelings, Amane pulls her into his arms, feeling a strong sense of protectiveness over her. Mihiru then mentions that Koyuki had helped her realize how rare someone like Amane truly is and how lucky she feels to have him by her side. It was his sincerity and the way he values her that made her fall deeply in love with him. Moved by her heartfelt words, Amane softly kisses her on the cheek and shyly asks if that kind of kiss would be acceptable for now. Mihiru immediately becomes flustered, but she can't deny how happy the kiss made her feel. Feeling overwhelmed by his emotions, Amane gently warns her that he might do something she could find a little too intense. Then, acting on impulse, he gives her a small hickey, catching Mihiru completely off guard. Once she regains her composure, she shyly tries to return the gesture. However, when she pulls away from his neck, she realizes there is no mark at all. Amane simply holds her close, feeling grateful for the intimacy they now share. On another day at school, the boys gather on the rooftop as Itsuki cheerfully remarks that summer is just around the corner. Amane tries to remain indifferent, but Itsuki immediately teases him, saying that he should be especially excited since it means he'll get to spend even more time with Mihiru. Amane attempts to argue that it's not necessarily the case, but Itsuki insists that it absolutely is. Yuta joins the conversation, sharing that he has also noticed how affectionate Mihiru and Amane have become lately. Still, he personally doesn't mind their lovey-dovey behavior since it keeps potential admirers away from both Mihiru and Amane. Later that evening, Amane asks Mihiru if she would like to visit his hometown with him sometime soon. After recovering from the initial surprise, Mihiru happily admits that she would be willing to go anytime. As they sit down to eat dinner together, they begin discussing the details of the trip. Eventually, they decide that a 2-week visit would be ideal. Amane mentions that his mother, Shioko, would be happy. This leads him to wonder whether they should take the opportunity to officially tell his parents about their relationship. At first, both of them hesitate, thinking it might still be too soon. However, after talking it through, they begin to feel that the trip could be the perfect time to share the news. Mihiru mentions that it would only be proper for her to introduce herself as Amane's girlfriend, since she is taking Amane away from his mother. Amane quickly points out that it should actually be his responsibility to speak to Mihiru's parents about that someday, not the other way around. The mere thought of Amane meeting her parents one day immediately makes Mihiru flustered. On the long-awaited pool day, Amane patiently waits while Mihiru finishes changing. When she finally steps out, dressed in a simple white 2-piece swimsuit, Amane is left completely speechless. Mistaking his silence for disappointment, Mihiru nervously assumes that he doesn't like how she looks. Startled, Amane quickly reassures her, telling her that she looks beautiful. However, when he notices several people staring at Mihiru, he suddenly feels protective. Without hesitation, he drapes his jacket over her shoulders to cover her and quickly guides her toward a quieter section of the pool. Mihiru playfully teases him, asking what he would have done if the two of them had been completely alone. Amane honestly admits that he probably might have reached out to touch her. Hearing his candid answer, Mihiru suddenly hugs his arm tightly. Amane quickly points out that he can feel her, but Mihiru calmly responds that it was part of her intention. Amane begins to suspect that Mihiru's angel persona has taken a break. Trying to regain control of the situation, Amane admits that he actually likes the feeling of her holding on to him. At first, this confession makes Mihiru blush, but she manages to press herself even closer. Later, when they finally step into the water, Mihiru becomes extremely nervous. She clings to Amane, clearly terrified. He gently reassures her that he would never let her drown and adds that if she somehow did, he could always perform mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on her. Mihiru pouts and asks if she really has to drown just to get him to kiss her. Amane quickly explains that a crowded pool is definitely not the right place for them to share their first kiss. Mihiru panics slightly, insisting that she wasn't trying to rush their first kiss at all. She simply wonders whether he will ever want to kiss her. Hearing that question, Amane blurts out that he always wants to kiss her. He realizes that he needs to clear up his feelings properly so he doesn't accidentally hurt Mihiru. Amane admits that he does want to kiss her, but he wants the moment to be meaningful and special. Eventually, Mihiru grows comfortable enough to relax on a floaty in the pool. However, she overestimates how stable it is and suddenly slips off, falling into the water. Thankfully, Amane manages to lift her back above the surface before anything serious happens. Mihiru shyly admits that she had only been confident enough to try floating because she knew Amane was nearby. With a gentle smile, she adds that she knew he would save her, so she was never truly scared. Later, they settle into poolside chairs to rest and enjoy some drinks. Mihiru grows curious about the drink Amane is having and decides to take a sip. However, she quickly becomes overwhelmed by the intense fizz, since she has never tried carbonated drinks before. She explains that she simply wanted to experience the same flavors that he enjoys. Suddenly, they hear familiar voices calling out to them. When they look, they see Chitose and Itsuki inviting them to join them. Chitose immediately starts teasing Amane after noticing him glancing at her. In response, Mihiru nervously adjusts his jacket, accidentally revealing a bit more of her swimsuit underneath. Chitose looks surprised, commenting that she had expected Mihiru to choose the black swimsuit. Hearing this, Mihiru panics and quickly covers Chitose's mouth to stop her from saying anything further. Mihiru hurriedly explains to Amane that the other swimsuit wasn't meant for public settings. Chitose then adds that the swimsuit itself wasn't particularly revealing, but Mihiru's figure made it far more eye-catching. Standing beside her, Mihiru fumes with embarrassment. Determined to end the teasing, she firmly announces that she has no intention of wearing the other swimsuit. A little later, the girls return to the water to play, while Amane and Itsuki remain by the sidelines chatting casually. As he watches her, Amane quietly remarks on how beautiful Mihiru has become, noting that she now smiles far more openly than before. The Mihiru we first met used to keep her emotions tightly guarded, so seeing her relax and genuinely enjoy herself brings him a deep sense of relief. Before long, Chidose and Mihiru call out to the boys, inviting them to join the fun in the pool. Without hesitation, Amane and Itsuki jump in to play along with them. As the day comes to an end, Amane and Mihiru start making plans to visit the pool again. Chidose mischievously brings up the topic of the black bikini to tease Mihiru. Amane, however, is not amused. He firmly tells Chitose that he will never allow Mihiru to wear something too revealing in public, and that, as her boyfriend, only he should be given special viewing privileges. One day, Amane and Mihiru arrive at Amane's hometown to stay for the break. When they spot Shihoko, Amane's mother, they let go of each other's hands since Amane hasn't told her that they are dating yet. As they move closer, Shihoko notices them and eagerly greets Mihiru. Mihiru apologizes for interrupting their family time, but Shihoko insists they are happy to have her. Amane stares at his mother, disappointed that she didn't greet him first, and she quickly tries to make up for it by greeting him enthusiastically. She informs them that Amane's father, Shudo, stayed at home to prepare lunch. She leads the way, and Amane takes Mihiru's hand again to guide her. When they arrive, Shudo welcomes them, making sure to treat Mihiru a little specially since this is her first visit. He also looks over at Amane and notices that he seems more mature now. He then asks Shihoko to handle the house tour so he can finish preparing lunch. She invites them further inside, and Mihiru thanks them for their hospitality. The first place they go is the room prepared for Mihiru, and Shihoko points out the second-floor bathroom. She explains that between Mihiru's room and the bathroom is Amane's room and informs her that their balconies are actually connected. Amane tells Mihiru that he will lock his balcony, and she should probably lock hers, though Mihiru tries to tell him that she isn't worried. Shihoko gushes at their concern for each other and tells them they should begin unpacking while she heads back down to help Shudo. When she is out of earshot, Amane apologizes for his mother being nosy and for the room arrangements. However, Mihiru is actually happy that they share a balcony since it means they can stargaze together. During dinner, they are greeted by a spread of Spanish cuisine, and Shudo asks if Amane has been causing any trouble for Mihiru. Mihiru reassures them that she has never been bothered by Amane, which makes his family comment that Amane has a tendency to act adorable. Mihiru agrees without hesitation, which Amane finds embarrassing. Shudo then asks if Mihiru can join him later to do some shopping, which immediately makes Amane suspicious. Shihoko tells Amane that Shudo is the better person to accompany Mihiru since, if it were her, she would just be fangirling. Shudo also tells Amane to stay home so he can tell Mihiru about Amane's childhood. Later, when Mihiru and Shudo leave, Amane and Shihoko are left doing the dishes. Shihoko shocks him by stating that it is obvious he and Mihiru are already a couple. Amane briefly worries that Shihoko might be against their relationship, but she actually tells him that she loves Mihiru like a daughter. However, she does say that based on how they act around each other, she assumes they have already sealed the deal. The statement nearly causes Amane to drop the plate he was washing. Shihoko expresses that since she really wants Mihiru as a daughter, they will help make sure Mihiru stays interested in him. Amane says he won't let go of someone he cares about that easily, which amuses Shihoko because he reminds her of Shudo. Amane argues that he doesn't possess the same charm Shudo has, but Shihoko believes that he does. Later, when Mihiru returns, the couple stays in Amane's room. Amane notices that Mihiru is fidgeting and guesses that Shudo must have said something about him. Mihiru reassures him that it wasn't anything bad and that Shudo mostly asked her about how Amane has been doing in school. But she mentions that Shudo also told her about some cute events from when Amane was a boy. Amane tries to get Mihiru to share, but she keeps averting her eyes to avoid giving more details. She finally settles on explaining that she now knows how cute he was as a child. Amane is a little annoyed, so he stands up and decides to punish her. He sits Mihiru on his lap and tells her that since she isn't sharing anything, she's going to get tickled. He drags a finger along her side, which immediately makes her squirm, then proceeds to mercilessly tickle her, despite Mihiru's protests for him to stop. He finally stops, and Mihiru complains that he's being mean. She explains that nothing bad happened during their conversation, and that she only learned small details, like how he had a hard time riding a bike, how he used to give Shihoko big hugs, and how he tried spiking his hair in middle school to look cool. The details his father shared annoy Amane a bit, but Mihiru decides to hold on to them for payback since she got tickled earlier. She even sweetly teases that next time, as punishment, she will whisper all the other things Shudo told her into his ear. Amane eventually gives in and strokes Mihiru's head as she cuddles closer to him. The next morning, Amane wakes up and sees Mihiru looking through his photo albums with his parents. He complains, and Mihiru gets the feeling she wasn't supposed to look at them, but he says they should have just told him. When Mihiru shares that she finds the photos cute, he complains that most of them are embarrassing. Shudo smiles at their interaction and shares how happy he is that Mihiru is such a kind and dependable person. However, he admits that he feels a little sad that neither of them had come forward about their relationship. Amane feels slightly annoyed at being reprimanded since his parents figured things out on their own. so he asks if they have a problem with their relationship. Shihoko says she is happy, but then asks if Mihiru is sure she wants to be Amane's girlfriend. Mihiru replies that she is aware of Amane's shyness, but that is one of the reasons she likes him so much. Hearing Mihiru praise Amane makes them gush, as they are now happy to have her as a possible daughter-in-law. Amane looks at them, suddenly feeling left out. A little later, Mihiru visits Amane in his room to bring him a snack. He is surprised since he expected her to spend more time with his parents. He admits he has been feeling left out, and since he knows Mihiru is about to apologize, he tells her that she didn't do anything wrong. He understands that she enjoys talking to his parents. Mihiru buries her head against his chest and admits that while she is happy talking to his parents, she enjoys the moments she spends with him the most. They sweetly kiss each other on the face, and Amane asks if they should go somewhere tomorrow since his parents will be busy at work and he hasn't had the chance to show her around town yet. She shares that it was actually his parents who encouraged her to spend time with him right now. Touched by everyone's concern, he suggests they spend time together eating the cream puffs she prepared for him. The next day, Amane and Mihiru head out to walk around. At home, Shudo and Shihoko remain in the house, musing about Amane's relationship. Shudo mentions that he really loves Shihoko for her personality, which makes her gush. Back with Amane and Mihiru, they find themselves watching children run around in the park. Mihiru asks if Amane dislikes running, and he shares that he actually enjoys it, he just doesn't like having to do it during PE. Mihiru suggests he join the children playing, but Amane refuses because it would look suspicious, and he knows Mihiru cannot join him due to her clothes. Mihiru admits that a part of her wants to join in since it looks fun and that she never really experienced playing with others as a child. Looking at the family nearby, Amane suggests that someday they should find time where they can simply play together. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to Amane, and he feels a sick sensation in his gut. When he turns, he sees an old bully, Tojo. Tojo asks if Mihiru is someone Amane just picked up, but Amane corrects him by saying that Mihiru is actually his girlfriend. Tojo suddenly looks smug and begins insulting how pathetic Amane used to be. Amane does his best to ignore him, but notices that Mihiru seems uncomfortable. Tojo tries to convince Mihiru that Amane used to be lame, but Mihiru calmly replies that she already knows about his past and actually finds Amane very adorable. Suddenly, Mihiru and Amane start teasing each other, but Amane refocuses and tells Tojo off. He says that Mihiru isn't going to change her mind about him because Tojo is practically a stranger to her. He admits that many things happened between them in the past, but frankly, Amane doesn't care what Tojo thinks of him anymore. Before Tojo leaves, Mihiru suddenly stops him and asks if he still wants to hear why she likes Amane so much. Instead of answering directly, she asks Tojo how he chooses his company. She believes that if he chooses people based only on how much he can benefit from them, he will never achieve what he truly wants in life. She shares that she once felt the same way. She admits she comes from a wealthy family, but her parents always seemed distant. She only began to feel real happiness after meeting Amane. She firmly believes that everything fell into place as she was preparing to meet him someday. Mihiru tells Tojo that he is still free to choose his friends or partners however he wishes, and she will not judge him for those choices. As for her, she chooses to make Amane her most important person, and as long as he understands her, that will always be enough. Amane eventually stops Mihiru and places himself between her and Tojo. He suddenly thanks Tojo and explains that even though Tojo hurt him in the past, he feels he owes who he is today to him. Because of them, Amane learned how to become his own person by overcoming pain. He also believes that growth led him to meet Mihiru at the right time. Since he believes this may be his last chance to say how he feels, he decides to tell him now. They then leave Tojo behind to reflect on their exchange. Later that evening, Amane looks out from the balcony. He notices Mihiru step onto the balcony despite it being late. They begin talking about the events earlier, and Amane shares that it has made him think about how different he is now. Mihiru comments that it is natural for him to grow with age, not just physically but mentally and emotionally as well. Amane smiles and agrees, then Mihiru tells him that if he ever feels like he is losing confidence, she will be there to remind him how wonderful he is. Hearing her honest feelings makes Amane want to hold her, so he asks for permission. Mihiru thinks about it for a moment but ultimately agrees. They end up back in his room, and Amane promises that he won't do anything strange. When Mihiru says she never expected him to, he holds her close, overwhelmed by how much he loves her. Suddenly, he leans in and kisses her, catching both of them by surprise. He quickly apologizes as Mihiru is still processing what happened. After recovering from her embarrassment, she shyly asks if he can kiss her one more time. Their second kiss carries more purpose, both eager to show how much they care for each other. But Mihiru becomes surprised when Amane gives her several more kisses after that. When she buries her face against his chest, she admits that she doesn't hate kissing him, but is honestly surprised to receive this much affection from him. She looks at him curiously and asks if he has had previous experience before, but Amane denies it and says he was simply overcome with the urge to kiss her. She then nervously asks for another kiss. saying that as long as his intentions are clear, she will always want one from him. They lean toward each other again and kiss, and when they part, Mihiru tells Amane that she now understands the appeal of kissing someone you love after experiencing it herself. She then leans against him and comments that she feels a little cold since the timer on the air conditioner has yet to finish. Amane begins teasing her that he can warm her up. Instead of becoming flustered like usual, Mihiru teases back, even daring him to show her what he means. He pulls her down onto the bed with him, joking that it has been getting harder to tease her lately and that she can use his arm for free, even though he would normally charge a fee. Since it's Mihiru, he says he will make an exception. The two flirt lightly back and forth, allowing themselves to enjoy the closeness they can now share as their relationship continues to grow. The next morning, Amane wakes up to see that Mihiru is sleeping next to him. He takes the moment to admire how cute she looks while she sleeps. He then hears Shudo at the door, asking if he can come in. Amane allows it, but Shudo is surprised when he walks in. Amane signals him to keep his voice down as he quietly leaves them alone. Amane hopes that Shudo thinks innocently of the situation. After a while, Mihiru begins to stir awake but cuddles closer when she sees Amane. It takes her a moment to register that she's in his bed, and when her mind catches up, she is shocked by the situation. Amane kisses her good morning and is surprised that she doesn't remember last night. Mihiru pulls off the sheets, and Amane reassures her that nothing happened. Mihiru blushes, calming her heart over the situation. Amane teases her, saying it seems like she slept well last night, prompting Mihiru to explain that she felt very relaxed in his arms. He takes the opportunity to tease her again and asks if her heart is racing, which she admits it is, but she also feels relaxed. She hugs him closer, settling into his arms as Amane jokingly suggests that they should start sleeping together even when they return to their apartments. To his surprise, Mihiru admits that she would like that, but only on occasion. She says that since they are a couple, it should be acceptable for them to spend evenings together. Amane tells her that sleeping together might lead to something else, and Mihiru tries to explain that she only wants to spend more time with him. Since her reason is innocent enough, Amane decides to agree to her plan but encourages her to finally get up. When he rises, he is surprised when Mihiru suddenly kisses him on the cheek, stating that it is payback for teasing her so much lately. During breakfast, Amane's parents ask if something happened during their walk yesterday since he seemed different after coming home. Amane admits to running into Tojo, but shares that since he is over the entire issue, nothing serious happened between them aside from trying to talk things out. After the confrontation, he feels that he probably won't be seeing much of Tojo anyway. His parents are proud of his maturity in handling the situation and feel that his new relationship has helped him grow more responsible in how he deals with things. Shudo even shares that Shihoko was just as good for him. Shihoko advises Mihiru to make sure that Amane is also taking care of her. Shudo agrees and reminds them both to always have each other's backs, to which Amane responds that they will without any hesitation. Shihoko can no longer contain her giddiness over their relationship and laments the fact that she has to go to work because she would much rather stay home and spoil both Amane and Mihiru. However, Mihiru tells her to hurry up and go, which makes Shihoko tease that she's only in a rush to have the house to themselves so they can make out. When Mihiru and Amane return to his room, Mihiru asks what making out usually entails, and Amane tells her that it usually involves kissing and other things. Since he doesn't elaborate on what other things mean, Mihiru has trouble differentiating it from regular kissing. He decides to settle by saying it also means holding each other, and Mihiru feels confident with that, so she leans against him. Feeling a bit more playful, Amane picks her up and places her on his lap, making sure Mihiru is comfortable before doing anything else. When Mihiru confirms that she is fine in their position, Amane doesn't hesitate and blows into her ear, causing her to get slightly annoyed since she is ticklish. Amane then gently pets her legs as Mihiru comments on how much she likes how big his hands feel. Starting to feel braver, he tries placing his finger just below her chest, telling Mihiru that making out usually involves a lot of touching, and that might mean he could feel things she wouldn't be comfortable with. He notices that Mihiru is starting to look nervous and tells her he wouldn't do anything she doesn't like, but reminds her that he is also a guy. He is surprised when Mihiru grabs him and nervously tells him that she actually wouldn't mind being touched by him. Amane kisses Mihiru before giving her one last warning, then gently bites her ear. Later, when Shudo and Shihoko return home, Shihoko notices that Mihiru is bright red and immediately teases Amane. She says she knows he wouldn't do anything inappropriate, but mentions that they must have been making out while they were left alone. Amane argues that they were only cuddling, and that makes Shihoko jealous because she wanted to cuddle with Mihiru too, but Amane doesn't allow it because, according to him, Mihiru belongs to him alone. To put Shihoko at ease, Shudo suggests that they all go out as a family soon and visit a place Mihiru would like. The next day, Amane returns from shopping completely soaked from the rain. Mihiru greets him right away, a little taken aback by his appearance, especially when he brushes back his bangs. She hands him a towel and suggests that he go ahead and take a bath. As Amane dries his hair, he mentions that this small domestic moment feels nice and that he enjoys being greeted by Mihiru and having a warm bath to come home to. After his bath, Mahiru blow-dries his hair and comments on how silky it is. Amane feels that Mahiru's hair is better than his, but Mahiru complains about the amount of effort she puts into maintaining it due to its length. She admits she has been thinking of cutting it and wants to know which length Amane prefers. Amane admits that he likes seeing Mahiru enjoy all the different styles she can do with long hair, but feels she would also look great with short hair, so whatever length she chooses will suit her just fine. To prove his point, Amane asks how Mahiru prefers his hair, and Mahiru admits that she likes him in whatever hairstyle he chooses. However, she mentions that he looked handsome earlier when he pushed his bangs back. Amane teases her by saying he can do it now if she wants, but Mahiru protests, saying she doesn't want to get too excited. Amane admits that there are moments when she comes out of the bath, and he finds himself catching his breath at the sight of her. It has been happening every day, so Amane has actually been considering locking his door. This makes Mahiru frustrated, and she tells him that it is well within her rights to tempt him. During the weekend, the entire family goes to the mall, and Shihoko makes Amane pick out a dress for Mahiru. At first, he says anything would look good on her, but Mahiru wants to hear his opinion. He decides to point at the yellow one, and Shihoko squeals at how much Amane adores Mahiru. Later, while Shuto and Shihoko are shopping, Amane brings up the dress Mahiru bought during Golden Week. Mahiru remembers it and mentions that she's saving it for the day they go out together on a proper date. Amane smiles since today is more of a family outing than a date, so it's something he can look forward to. On another day, due to the rain, Amane and Mahiru are unable to go out, which dampens Mahiru's mood. Seeing how much this is affecting her, Amane starts feeling bad about the day going to waste, but Mahiru hugs his arm and reassures him that she is fine relaxing with him at home. She mentions that she prefers it now that Amane doesn't blow or whisper into her ear anymore. Since he is reminded of it, he teases that he might do it today, which easily flusters Mahiru since she gave him the idea. She vows to find something that makes him weak in the knees for her. However, Amane wonders out loud if there's anything else she can do because he is already crazy about her. Mahiru pouts since he can flirt so easily, which makes Amane explain that he does find it embarrassing, but he knows that if he isn't clear with his feelings, it could lead to misunderstandings. Mahiru smiles and mentions that she loves his honesty, which makes him blush. Seeing how he responds to her affection makes her feel like she has won something today. A little later, she finds a CD titled Growth Diary, and when they play it, it turns out to contain videos and images from Amane's childhood. Amane ends up turning the video off when things become too embarrassing for him. Later, after completing the chores at home, Amane is shocked to see that Mahiru has changed into the dress she bought last Golden Week. She timidly asks if it looks good on her, and he enthusiastically agrees, deciding to be more specific about what he likes about it. He mentions how the dress looks good because it shows off more of her skin and how nice her figure looks. He even says that she appears taller while wearing it. The compliments become too much for Mahiru, and she ends up embarrassed. They return to his room, and Amane has her on his lap again. He playfully bites her ear, but Mahiru pulls away, overwhelmed by how strongly he is showing his affection. She mentions that she feels strange every time he does it, so Amane promises to save that kind of attention for another occasion. Mahiru slowly relaxes again and mentions that she's glad he liked the dress because she bought it hoping to attract him with it. Hearing her intention, Amane feels that he should admire her in the dress more, so Mahiru crawls out of his lap to sit in front of him so he can see her better. Confirming it again, he says that the dress looks amazing on her, which Mahiru can tell from the way he looks at her. Amane moves closer, cupping her face, and admits that Mahiru is the prettiest girl he knows. Mahiru mentions that he seems more forward today, and Amane explains that it's because they are on a date, even if it's just at home. Mahiru decides to share that whenever he becomes bold, she feels herself getting overwhelmed. She feels like it isn't fair that Amane can easily make her excited while he appears calm when they are together. When Amane mentions that he is excited too, Mahiru presses her ear against his chest to make sure, and she smiles to herself when she hears how erratic his heartbeat is. She settles back onto his lap, and Amane tells her that regardless of the day, they'd always seem to act as if they are on a date. He then expresses his eagerness to visit her place as well. At first, Amane clears up the suspicion that he wants to do anything inappropriate. He is simply curious about what her home looks like, and he wants to see what the picture of him on her desk looks like. Mahiru is shocked that Amane knows about the photo, and even more surprised that he doesn't seem bothered by the fact that she had secretly kept it from him. She thought for sure he would label her as creepy. She admits that Itsuki gave her a photo of Amane smiling when it was rare, and that she is glad he still accepts her despite keeping a picture of him without his knowledge. Amane pulls her close, and Mahiru tells him that with the affection he showers on her, she will end up spoiled. Amane claims that it's payback for her spoiling him first. When Mahiru tries to call him out, he kisses her cheek to distract her, and she ends up burying her face against his chest out of embarrassment. A little later, during their cuddling, Mahiru mentions that Amane has been holding her more often lately. She decides that she likes this feeling because during moments like this, Amane seems smaller than her, and it makes her feel like she can protect him. Amane is surprised because physically Mihiru is still much smaller than him, and holding her always makes him feel like he can protect her from anything. Mihiru feels confident that she was made the size she is because she fits perfectly in his arms. They decide that they were made for each other and hold each other tighter. Amane promises not to leave any marks later, but promises to kiss her. While still clinging to each other, Mihiru admits that she likes life with him in his home, which makes Amane happy since she enjoys being with him and his family. He promises that they can come back again during their next long break and shares that he hopes Mihiru can come to look at his place as home soon. One day, while out on a date, Mihiru notices that the weather is sweltering. She suggests they head back because of the heat so they can get an umbrella for him. But Amane insists it's fine since Mihiru had already applied sunscreen on him. As they walk, Mihiru spots a poster for an upcoming fireworks festival, and Amane mentions that their festival is a big deal. She wants to go but feels disheartened when she realizes the festival will take place after they leave. Mihiru admits she has never attended a summer festival before but insists that Amane shouldn't feel bad for her because she is happy just spending the summer by his side. Amane feels a little embarrassed by her words, but Mihiru explains that she is simply saying what she truly feels. Before Amane can respond, Kaname suddenly bumps into his stomach, causing him to stagger. As Amane recovers, Mihiru notices the other girl and curiously asks who Kaname is. In return, Kaname asks who Mihiru is since she has never seen her before. Amane answers easily, saying that Mihiru is the person he is in love with. He also explains that Kaname is the younger sister of Hinata, someone he used to spend time with. It takes a while for Amane to convince Kaname that he is telling the truth, since she believes he is like Hinata, someone who struggles to even talk to girls. Hinata soon steps out of his house looking for Kaname, and notices Kaname with Amane and Mihiru. He approaches them and remarks on how much Amane has changed over the past 3 years. Wanting to speak with him privately, Hinata tells Kaname to take Mihiru to their mother's garden because it will make their mother happy. Kaname finds it suspicious but then realizes that Hinata wants to talk to Amane alone but still agrees. Kaname takes Mihiru's hand and leads her into the garden. Once Mihiru leaves, Hinata asks if she is Amane's girlfriend. He admits he never imagined Amane would become someone's boyfriend, which makes him wonder what else Amane would do. Hinata then tells him that he looks well despite what happened in the past. Amane realizes that Hinata may feel guilty for not defending him when he was being bullied. Seeing that he regrets it, Amane tells him that he has already moved on. Hinata praises him and says that both of them have grown stronger since middle school. Amane even jokes that they would probably be able to stand up for themselves now if the same situation happened again, though Hinata refuses. Meanwhile, the girls admire the garden until Amane comes to pick Mihiru up. They eventually take their leave, thanking Hinata and Kaname for their time. As he walks with Mihiru, he realizes that he and Hinata said goodbye without any promise to meet again. He understands that neither of them intends to reconnect in the future, not out of malice, but because they live separate lives. As they continue walking, Mihiru mentions that he seems to be meeting many people from his past. To Amane, it feels like fate is helping him tie up loose ends. He feels that confronting these people is something he needs in order to move forward. Mihiru tells him how proud she is of him for facing his past because she is certain she will eventually have to face her own. On their last day in town, Shudo and Shihoko feel sad to see them leave so soon. Shihoko even insists that Mihiru visit more often. Both of them are relieved to see that Mihiru felt comfortable in their hometown, since they had worried she might be too nervous to enjoy anything. Amane jokingly comments that Shihoko had been too pushy, making it hard for Mihiru to refuse anything. Even Shudo agrees, but adds that it's one of the many qualities that make Shihoko a wonderful person. His words make her heart flutter and she hugs him in front of everyone. As their train departure approaches, Shihoko tells Mihiru that she's always welcome in their home, and that if she and Amane ever argue, she can come to them anytime. Shudo adds that misunderstandings are unavoidable and that it's healthy to take space or talk to an adult when needed. He reassures Mihiru that she will always have a place with them. During the ride home, Amane hopes that he was able to show Mihiru what a happy family feels like. He silently vows to help her experience more happiness in the future. A few days after returning, the town holds its own summer festival. Mihiru surprises everyone by wearing a beautiful kimono that Shihoko had sent her. As Amane hears his friends compliment the gift, he agrees silently that Shihoko has excellent taste. Izuki continues praising Mihiru for wearing a kimono, which begins to annoy Chidose since she didn't wear a kimono. He quickly tries to recover by saying that Chidose is always cute, even when she's wearing a face mask. Chidose knows he's lying because he was laughing at her earlier. Because of the crowd, the group decides to stay close together and Mihiru clings tightly to Amane's arm. Amane asks if she wants to try any food or activities, since it's her first festival. Mihiru admits she doesn't know where to start and asks for suggestions. Amane lists common festival foods, but Chidose interrupts, saying she wants cotton candy first, though Amane warns it's not the best idea. Mihiru decides to keep walking and think about it, which Amane says is part of the experience. As they pass Boots, Mihiru notices a game and points it out. Amane explains that it's a court gun game where you knock down prizes. Mihiru eagerly tries, aiming for a floral-patterned prize. Her first shot misses, but she remains determined. Unfortunately, all her shots miss. Amane tries to comfort her, but their friends insist he should win it for her. Mihiru shyly asks him to try, since she really wants the prize. Amane takes his shot and knocks it down on his first try. Mihiru immediately wears it and beams with happiness, which doesn't go unnoticed. Amane notices and quietly tells Mihiru to tone down her charm a little, saying he would rather keep that side of her to himself. Mihiru becomes flustered and nods quickly, but the movement loosens the clip. Amane fixes it for her right away. Itsuki and Chidose exchange concerned looks, since the two are drawing even more attention. Amane admits he can't help it when it comes to Mihiru. Soon some girls begin admiring Amane as well, which Mihiru overhears. She leans toward him and says she should echo his advice. Eventually, the group settles down to eat. Chidose happily enjoys her food while Mihiru watches curiously. She offers Mihiru a bite of her skewered squid. Itsuki finds it adorable, but Amane feels uneasy seeing others get close to Mihiru. Two male classmates approach them, drawn by Mihiru's appearance. They recognize her and are hoping to strike a conversation that might make her notice them. They are shocked to learn that her kimono came from Shihoko, and ask if Amane already has permission to marry her. Amane quickly insists that they leave to check out other parts of the festival. Once they are a distance away from their schoolmates, Itsuki asks if they brought up their parents on purpose, but the couple neither confirms nor denies the accusation. Chitose then declares that they absolutely need shaved ice next. The group wonders how she manages to stay so thin despite eating so much. Itsuki admits it's one of the things he loves about Chitose because of nice she feels in his arms, though he teasingly adds that he wishes she would gain weight in certain areas. As punishment for the rude remark, Chitose begins stomping on his feet and drags him away so they can talk. Amane asks Mihiru what kind of shaved ice she wants so they can continue enjoying the festival. Once they get their shaved ice, they sit on a bench and watch Chitose scold Itsuki. They realize that they are simply a different kind of couple. Mihiru then notices that Amane got a matcha-flavored shaved ice, which didn't look like something he's into. Amane admits he wanted another sweeter flavor made with mashed beans, but they didn't have it. Mihiru is surprised, since it's quite sweet, and learns for the first time that Amane really likes sweets, especially mashed sweet beans. She understands why the flavor wasn't available, since preparing mashed beans takes time and effort. She then shares that one of her greatest joys is being able to cook for the people she loves. Seeing his chance, Amane asks if she could make him sweet bean paste and dorayaki sometime. She smiles at his request and promises to prepare it. Chitose returns and looks at their shaved ice. She confirms that she has thoroughly punished Itsuki and that he is now repenting by buying shaved ice and a chocolate banana. She then complains about her body, saying she didn't choose to be unable to gain weight. She knows most guys are drawn to girls with figures like Mihiru. Not just her figure, Mihiru is to her probably the ideal girl for most guys, and she can't help but feel a bit jealous since she is practically Mihiru's opposite. Suddenly, Itsuki returns with his peace offerings and Chitose easily forgives him. Mihiru takes another bite of her shaved ice but gets a brain freeze, causing Amane's expression to soften. Chitose notices immediately and teases him about it. Amane turns to Mihiru for confirmation and she agrees. Itsuki offers to show them photos in the future as proof, but Chitose says there's no need since it's obvious how much Amane and Mihiru love each other. Mihiru goes even further, explaining her feelings in more detail, and how each version of Amane is someone she loves and treasures, which unintentionally makes it sound like they've already gone further in their relationship. Knowing how his friends think, Amane quickly clarifies that they haven't. Chitose then asks if they have at least kissed, and Mihiru makes it very obvious that they have. Based on her reaction, Chitose teases how innocent they are, but Amane argues that they are simply going at their own pace. Chitose walks up to Mihiru and advises her to just tell Amane whenever she wants a kiss. The suggestion makes Mihiru panic and she quickly covers Chitose's mouth. After eating more, the group decides to call it a night. Chitose reveals that she will be staying over at Mihiru's place and teases Amane, asking if she needs his permission in case he gets jealous. Amane denies it, saying that Mihiru belongs to him anyway. Mihiru quickly whispers to Chitose that Amane has been coming up with a lot of bold lines lately. Later, Chitose calls Amane from her apartment. Amane initially wants to hang up, but Chitose convinces him to stay on the line and wait for Mihiru to say goodnight. Since Mihiru is still taking a bath, Chitose uses the time to ask Amane how serious his feelings for Mihiru are. She shares her concern that for high schoolers, relationships are often not serious and are treated like flings. Amane asks if that's something Itsuki's father told her. Chitose admits it is and adds that she has a feeling his father doesn't like her from when she visited. Amane answers honestly that he doesn't know how far ahead he's thinking yet, but he is certain that he wants to make Mihiru happy. Chitose says she feels the same way about Itsuki, so Amane tells her not to let other people's opinions affect her. Chidose becomes slightly annoyed at how nice Amane has become, and he admits that it's because of Mahiru's influence. When Mahiru returns, she learns that Chidose was asking Amane for advice and pouts, saying that Chidose never trusts her with that kind of conversation. Chidose immediately tackles her and reassures her that she receives plenty of advice from Mahiru that she treasures. Since the two continue playing around, Amane decides it's time to hang up, though Chidose still tries to make him jealous by stating that Mahiru likes her better, only to be corrected by Mahiru that Amane belongs to his own special category. Chidose eventually stops teasing them, so Mahiru and Amane can say their good nights. She holds her phone up to Mahiru, so Mahiru and Amane are facing each other at eye level. Facing the phone, the couple softly greets each other good night, promising to see each other again the next day. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to see what happens next.